2022, you're going to see, you'll see the forward-looking guidance being published soon. I would expect triple-digit growth again. People are going to say, well, where does that growth come from? Really, it comes from that continued organic expansion. We have a couple of new products and services that we're delivering.
Jim Albertelli is back. He's CEO of Voxtur Analytics, trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol VXTR, and in the United States under the symbol VXTRF. Jim, welcome back.
Hey, good to be back. Thank you for having me.
You bet. I want to start off with a look at your most recent updated slide, which we're looking at on the screen here. You have upgraded your 2021 revenues by 58% to show an exit of $95 million. What happened to see such a big upgrade?
Well, I think that the organic growth that we predicted we'd have organic growth right at the beginning of the year, but we didn't know as we took an acquisition in, the thesis was always that our organic growth would be land and expand. And people and investors would always ask me, okay, Jim, it's inorganic because it's an acquisition, or is it organic? And I'd say, look, it's a little bit of both. It's inorganic when we make that initial acquisition, like ANOW. Okay, that was inorganic. We bought them, but we bought $1 million basically a year in revenue. We quickly, in 4 weeks, took that to $700,000 a month. Okay, so the the less than $100,000 to $700,000, that's organic. The little component piece that we bought was inorganic through acquisition. So I think what you're seeing is when we said that we would land and expand, what we were really saying with particularity was that we had master service agreements, contracts with tier 1 banks and tier 2 banks and mortgage servicers, so that if you came into our service wheel, we're already selling one service, we could add that extra service on. And we had all the compliance and risk already baked in, so we could actually serve those financial institutions. So some of these companies that we buy, that we find, it would take them years to get to a Voxtur like distribution. When they come onto in our family of companies, and now they have all of our corporate rigor, we could deliver them quickly. So it was organic expansion that you saw. That was the difference maker.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so that's 2021 in the bag. What about 2022? What are you guiding for that?
Well, 2022, you're going to see, you'll see the forward-looking guidance being published soon. I would expect triple-digit growth again. People are going to say, well, where does that growth come from? Really, it comes from that continued organic expansion. We have a couple of new products and services that we're delivering, but then we just have with the uptick in rates. And I told this to people before. I said, look, don't forget, Voxtur has a default business. It's been completely dormant. Yes, these servicers have to reevaluate their portfolios. Okay, so it'll be slow grow in Q1, but by the mid to end of Q2 and Q3, you're going to see that revenue can increase exponentially, right? So that growth from default services is going to continue to increase as more defaults move into the system. You've already seen that the rates have increased quite substantially. We know that the Fed's going to come out and increase the rates again. We know that that's going to increase the default market. But the other thing it's going to do is where Voxtur is unique, like creating efficiencies in valuation space. Lenders now have time on their hands, where before they were drinking out of a fire hose, and even if you brought them an efficiency, they didn't have time to look at it. They were doing too many loans. But with the increasing rates, now they're taking the time to step back and go, wait a second, what can we do differently? Well, Voxtur has the ability to originate loans through lead capture, maintain your portfolio through all of our data and analytics. We can do portfolio monitoring. We have the ability to make your appraisals more efficient and digital. And all of those services are great. So an uptick in rates for us gives us it just opens up that addressable market, and it lets us attack it, because now people are focused and really looking at how can I improve. When there's too much business, there's no incentive to improve, right? I mean, people are just too distracted, too busy, trying to build scale, et cetera. But now with the raising rate environment, you're going to see Voxtur continues to expand, take market share. Voxtur's profits and revenues continue to increase. And all of this market could be the best of both worlds. It might be the best of times and the better of times, rather than the best of times and the worst of times, right? If you're a literary buff, but it certainly will look that way with the default technologies taking off, as well as our suite of origination, servicing, and investment services. Those are going to be some of the macroeconomic influences that give us support to the business that goes through 2022.
Right. So Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae have approved the use of desktop appraisals, which is obviously fantastic for your A-Now division.
It is.
Does this suggest that the entire range of digital sort of food chain applications are going to be approved by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Like the whole process is going your way.
Yes, the whole process is coming our direction. I think if you look at FHFA, the Federal Housing Finance Authority, if you look at their 14-page guidance of what they were trying to accomplish with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and remember, since Fannie and Freddie went into conservatorship, FHFA is really running the bingo there. You'll see that they actually, I don't know if it's on page 10 or 12 or whatever, but you'll see where they actually outline the use of digital strategies to reduce the cost of home ownership and to increase the velocity of loans that they can make. So when you're looking at it and you think about, and that's why I said Voxtur is built on, we're data as a service. We're not built for tomorrow, we're built for 5,000 or 10,000 tomorrows. The concept was, and with this desktop appraiser, we were already ready. We already have the digitization of that workflow where we could change it on the fly. If Fannie changes a standard, we could change a standard. But we have the full continuum. We have it's an appraiser. It's the appraiser and its data sitting at their desk. We have it's an inspector and an appraiser. It's a broker and appraiser. It's an agent and or an appraiser. It's a consumer and data science. So remember, Voxtur has built one of the largest databases in North America. We have access to all the MLS data, all the CoreLogic data, et cetera. So we can, in our digital workflow, as it changes, we're ready for every change. Our Voxtur valuation technology, formerly known as A-Now, which route optimizes the person, the appraiser in the field, it could be the broker in the field, the agent in the field, the attorney in the field, right? So every one of the iterations towards a completely digital model, which is an augmented reality app for a consumer, which we already have, and the data science, which we already have, those two components might be the total future state for 75% of loans. Voxtur's there already. Like all these changes and evolutions, we're done. We built it. We're ready. So this desktop appraisal was the next step to make the human capital more efficient. Let the appraiser sit where it's a 90% LTV, first money, purchase money mortgage, right? So it's you have 10% of skin in the game. It's a purchase loan. Let's let it be a desktop appraisal. So the appraiser can stay at home, get the data science, look at the comps, and provide their expertise. Well, that's the next step. But the step after that, may be, hey, let's go with an inspector or an inspection or a broker or someone else going to the property, taking a look at it. And now all of a sudden you can go 100% LTV, right? So that loan will be coming next. And maybe an appraiser looks at it. But you can see, because appraisers aren't, they're not creating as many appraisers anymore. It's not an area of science that or business that students are moving into. So they're not being replaced. But we're having more and more housing stock being built. So there'll be a disconnect. And we're going to have to look at other places. We're going to have to take that human capital, the appraiser, and put them on the most specialized properties, not in subdivisions, not in condominiums, not with a lot of good comps, these outliers. That's where the human expertise, like much in life, will be focused on the outlier. The general population could do a lot better with macro and micro economic analysis, with a forward look on what the home could be worth, with an inspection that could be a virtual or augmented reality inspection by a homeowner tied back to a public record. We already do all that at Voxtur. So that's why I love this change. And oh, by the way, while the desktop appraisal may not change the cost precipitously, ultimately it should, but the cost will go down at some point in our future. Today, it might be $800 to $1,000 appraisal. Some point in the near future, in 24 months, FHFA, Fannie and Freddie are going to come to a company like Voxtur and say, guys, we've seen what you can do in the alternative to title. We've seen what you can do in other places. You got the data. You've got the science. You can feed it to us. You can mitigate our risk. let's take this valuation down to 1 day, because a consumer walks through their home and maps it all to from 3 weeks and $800 or $1,000 to 1 day and $100 with less risk. Why don't we go there and put that $700, $800, $900 into a consumer's pocket and make getting into a home more affordable? Because it is important to people, and I think that's where we're going. We're going to that place, and then the appraisers get to really focus on those few properties that are the more difficult ones. They're unique. They're high-end properties. There's no comps. It's a meat and bounds description. It's rural. Put the appraiser where we need the human capital most. Let's use data science, and an inspection for the rest of the world, and save everybody that money and put it in their pocket. And don't they need it now with inflationary pressure? And don't they need it now with fewer homes and too many offers? Like those combination of things, this could be a great way for people to win, to help consumers get into homes. And that's what Voxtur is about.
Yeah, so the Federal Housing Finance Agency also just recently released a advisory bulletin on artificial intelligence, machine learning, risk management. And so they're obviously also moving in your direction in a big way. And do you find that their inference, or their participation in the structuring of new rules around artificial intelligence and machine learning that sort of drive your automation systems, is that going to slow things down, or is that actually should be interpreted more as a signal that the advent of digitization has arrived and even the agencies are now behind it?
Well, I think that last statement is exactly correct. I think the fact that you have government agencies now aware of consuming large amounts of data and data science, understanding how it can mitigate the risk, looking at long-term trending, and really being now at the forefront of change, understanding that's what needs to happen first. I can give you a less risky valuation product, okay, and do it with all the data science in the world. That's much better than maybe what's being done today with the human animal. And it's a better model, and it's less expensive. But until the rules and regulations accept it, until they allow for it, nothing's going to happen. I think the nice part about this, and this may be lost, but with the current administration, with the Biden administration, they've really pushed to reduce the cost of home ownership. They've been active in that and eliminating racial bias or other bias in the process. So they've been very thoughtful about it. They've given that mandate to FHFA. FHFA has done a fantastic job responding to it, and Fannie and Freddie now are ready for it. So I think that a company like Voxtur will uncover a tremendous amount of value for homeowners, reduce their costs, and it's our digital model that we've been talking about. That's why I say that when we release guidance, it'll be triple-digit growth again next year, and then it'll be even bigger in the future, because we're going to continue to scale up. But this shift of mindset is really what's going to allow us to use all the tools that Voxtur's already built and assembled. That's why last year was so important. Get access to all the MLS data, get access to all the CoreLogic data, get the valuation platform that's digitized in future world, because everybody's going to need a value. And whether you're an originator, a service, or a capital market space, get ahead of the data science. Bring in a fantastic CTO, build the platform, normalize the data, build the API field, be ready to deploy in the future. That's what Voxtur's been working on.
You bet. So then let's talk about how the Fed rise in interest rates that is going to happen this year. It just seems there's no doubt about it now. I mean, so the Fed says, well, we're going to start to raise rates in March. We're going to start with 50 basis points because we really need to get ahead of this inflation. Then they back up a bit because just the talk of this aggressive raise at the outset causes markets to tank. So they don't want to kill the golden goose that's been driving the wealth effect. Nonetheless, the mortgage rate, the real mortgage rate, is now just under 4% and that's a significant, that's a 200% increase from what a lot of people are going to pay. So my question is the rising interest rate going to drive mortgage rates to the point where there's going to be an increase in defaults, in foreclosures, and a lot of volatility in the housing market? But at the end of the day, that just means there's going to be more transactional flow on your platform.
Yes, I think there's going to be a combination of it. Remember, we've got tremendous wealth built up in equity in homes across America. So if it begins to be, at least for the next, call it 6 to 8 months, as it becomes, less affordable, let's say people then determine they want to sell, they're selling into a good market. The raise in rate should increase the total velocity of transactions initially. And then at some point, once that settles out, as long as we have good wages and labor and we still have a tight labor market, we're not going to see the influx of defaults. We also don't have as much supply. So if someone gets it behind a little bit, they'll list their house, they'll sell it, and they have equity to be able to do it. So there's more flexibility. See, there's several different factors at play. It's going to take some time for it all to settle out. The increase in rates will impact some people. And so does maybe a market adjustment affects their 401k, their stocks and their investments, hit it differently. That's depressive on people's ability to buy. That slows some of the rate of absorption of homes into the market. But on the contra, you've got some people that are getting some additional pressure as rates increase, their houses come into the market. So I think right now, you're not going to see a major change in the next 6 to 12 months. It'll take some time for some of these macroeconomic factors to bake. But what you do see is the loan origination, the decrease from the global refinances are almost done. There'll be fewer candidates of refinances, obviously, as the rates go up. Now, why do I refinance? I can't. I've already got a lower rate. 4% is still a fantastic rate. 6% historically is a fantastic rate. We got so spoiled, 8% was a fantastic rate. None of those are bad rates, okay? It's just that we're so spoiled with 2, 3, 4% that this move gets us all nervous. It shouldn't get us nervous.
Sure.
It's back to a more normal market. But for Voxtur, which is not wed to the past. We don't have billions and billions of market cap the way things used to be done.
Right.
So we're not scared to make a change. We now have tools and services that can make lending less expensive, can give people access to more leads, and leads are the gold that really fuel the mortgage market. And I think with our data and technology doing that, with our increased efficiencies, reducing the cost of home ownership, Voxtur just continues to increase. Yeah, our default business will grow. There'll be more defaults. No doubt about it. That's going to happen. And that's been completely zero and dormant, right? So that business will continue to expand. And that's the other reason you might like Voxtur as an investment. Look, they've got the put and the call. They've got investments that win in both markets. And in the near term, we're going to win with origination volume, with purchase money market going, and default. And I think that's going to make for a pretty interesting 2022.
You bet. So is the mortgage moratorium coming to an end in 2022, and how's that going to affect the business?
It already has. That default moratorium has already basically expired at the beginning of the year. It's just that many of the mortgage servicers have to because they didn't offer every borrower every possibility. Remember, and this isn't a negative on mortgage servicers. The federal government when the pandemic started, didn't know what it wanted to do. And it gave certain relief, and it changed the types of relief. Sometimes they change the types of relief 3 times. If you took the first relief and you were good, you're making your payments, and you're not showing up on the radar, why would you be offered another, different plan? You've already got a plan that's working. Well, the government decided that, at least they decided that you should give everybody every plan. So some of the 29 servicers listed had to go back and evaluate everybody for every plan. That's what they're in the process of doing. That will all work itself out over the next 90, 120 days. And then, we already see the increase in defaults, but then you'll see more and more referrals and more work for our bankruptcy technology to do, connecting borrowers and trustees and the bankruptcy courts and the mortgage servicing platform. You'll see more of that work flowing through, and Voxtur will be able to work in all of its products and services in default, its title, its valuation, its tax, as well as on the purchase money side as that increases as well.
You bet. All right, Jim, great update. We'll leave it there for now. Come back to you in due course. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, always great seeing you. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye for now.